What's up, fellow Metsicus and baseball fans alike? You made it to the first real episode of the Metsicus where we recap the 2022 Mets season, or in this case, a post-mortem of the 2022 season. I know it did not end how we obviously would have preferred it to. However, there's quite a few silver linings and takeaways from this season that when thinking objectively, is really good signs for how this organization is going to go. So let's get to it. We got 101 wins in the season, 61 losses. This is only the fourth time in Mets history we've exceeded 100 games in a regular season. The only three other times we were able to do that was in 69 World Series, 86 World Series, and 88, where we got to the NLCS, but we lost to the Dodgers, I believe. And then now we got 2022, adding on, making history. We ended up second place to the Braves. We had a tie split with them because they won more games than us during the regular season against us. There's obviously, in hindsight, all we had to do was win one game against them, or we really could have just won an extra game in Oakland. We could have not got swept by the Cubs. There's a lot of things that could have happened that would have resulted in us finishing in first place in the NL East, and then us facing the Phillies, which probably would have went a little better, but who knows? The Phillies are insanely hot as of the time of recording this video. They're just tearing through the postseason, so it's very likely they would have beaten us, just because after the All-Star break, maybe a little after the All-Star break, the Mets just kind of forgot how to hit, and some of our key starters were just giving up unbelievable amount of runs. So we kind of just choked really hard at the end there, but again, trying to be objective here, and we'll cover things that looked really good during the season. So we really beat up on the NL East, with the exception of the Braves. We own the Nationals like most people did, honestly. The Phillies, we just kind of wiped our with them the whole season. It was incredible what we did with them. The fact, if you told me 3 months ago that the Phillies were going to be in the World Series and the Mets would have been eliminated in the first round, I would have told you were crazy. So, kudos to the Phillies for getting where they got, I'm personally rooting for Houston, but, it's impressive what they did. So they got hot at the right time, and they're certainly carrying through it. At the time of this recording, it's 1-1 in the World Series, so it's kind of a crapshoot right now to see where it goes. Going into the starting pitching rotation for the Mets, which was phenomenal this year, is kind of what the team was built around. We start off with Mad Max. He had a 2.29 ERA for the year. He had a little bit of an injury stint that kept him out of the game for a while. If he didn't get that injury stint and he kept up how his performance was, he probably would have got a few nominations for the Cy Young. I don't think he would have quite beaten Alcantara in Miami, but he was having a great year. So, with the exception of that postseason blowout against the Padres, he was perfect pretty much all year round. DeGrom, obviously the GOAT. We missed him for first half of the year, essentially, even a little after that. When he came back, it's like he hasn't missed a beat in 2021. He was very much DeGrom. He had a few stinkers, not many though. I can think of 3 offhand. It was one against the Oakland A's that he kind of got blown up against late in the season. Obviously, he had not that great of a start against the Braves series, the crucial Braves series that ended up basically the one that we got swept and lost the division. He was not good in there, and there was another game. I want to say possibly it was an earlier Miami game, but I don't remember. But overall, he was phenomenal. He had a very low ERA. He still has that crazy slider, fastball, changeup combination. Looks very much unhittable as usual. I'm excited to see him next year. I really hope he signs with the Mets. I know there's kind of some sentiment that he might go, but Cohen's made it clear that he's going to try everything and anything to snag DeGrom again for unforeseen amount of years. Hopefully he can stay healthy and he can stay with the Mets. If he goes to the Braves, I'll probably stop watching baseball for a couple seasons. We had Chris Bassett, who was amazing all year round. 3.42 ERA. He was lights out pretty much. Very solid pitcher. Not quite an ace, but he could be an ace for another team. But it's hard to be an ace when you have DeGrom and Scherzer on the same team. With the exception of the postseason choke that he had, I mean, he was great all year round. I mean, I hope to see him again next year. Chris Bassett, I'm team Chris Bassett.
I don't care who you are. I'm coming after you.
Taijuan Walker. I mean, the guy was lights out for the first half of the year. Like, no one can hit him. And then after the All-Star break, he got a little shaky. Yeah, I mean, he was still pretty good overall, but it's like he got figured out or something. He started giving up a lot of runs. But he kept his ERA really low as well for the year. 3.49 is really good. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him walk at the end of the year. No pun intended, but we'll see. It's going to be between him and Carrasco, to be honest. If my gut tells me Billy Epler is going to want to stay with Carrasco, but we'll see. Carrasco, 3.97 ERA. Guy was also really good overall. The way I kind of felt about Carrasco was he was either like ungodly and like was just able to be unhittable for a game, or he'll just get blown the hell up. That was kind of his MO for most of the season. Obviously, he had more games where he was lights out because he has a relatively low ERA. I mean, the starting pitching ERA for the Mets was 3.57. That's going off a Baseball Reference. It probably varies if you count, Peterson and Trevor Williams and early Tyler McGill starts. I mean, the starting pitching rotation, I can't really say much more than I'm like unbelievably satisfied with it. If we start off next year with a fully healthy DeGrom, fully healthy Scherzer, fully healthy Bassett, Carrasco, I don't know if Taijuan's going to resign, but I can tell you what, David Peterson is certainly going to have a spot on the roster, starting pitching rotation, because he really proved himself this year, stepped up. The man pitched a 3.83 ERA. When Scherzer went down prior to the All-Star break, David Peterson was regularly in the rotation, and the guy was just, I mean, he was an awesome lefty. And, that's kind of what the starting pitching rotation was lacking, a good lefty. And Peterson just killed it, to be honest. A few games he got blown up, and most of the time he was super solid. And I am excited to see him in the starting pitching rotation if we lose either Carrasco or Taijuan. On that note, I mean, Trevor Williams was like the ultimate Swiss Army knife for the Mets in terms of pitching. He ended the year with a 3.21 ERA. He started 9 games. I mean, he came in for long relief periods. The guy was kind of like your middle relief man. I mean, he pitched like fantastically. I mean, totally unprecedented coming from Trevor Williams, to be honest with you. I was super, super satisfied how he stepped up during the few injury stints we had. We had Scherzer go down, Taijuan went down for a little bit, Carrasco went down for a little bit. So between Peterson and Trevor Williams, they certainly held down the fort. So, I mean, I think Trevor Williams is going to end up getting a starting pitching job somewhere else. If he doesn't, I would totally love to see him come back as a Met, because either in the bullpen or starting, the guy is amazing. So if he ends up leaving the Mets, I wish him nothing but the best. They had a 3.57 starting pitching rotation. That's 3rd in the NL, 8th in the league. I mean, Houston had I think they ended their season with a 3.08 starting pitching rotation, so it's right there. I mean, the team's pitching is up to par to be, a contending team. So hopefully there's minimal movement there between this year and next year, and we can see what we get starting in 2023. My gut feeling is that Taijuan or Carrasco is going to go, but I'm leaning more towards Taijuan. Anyway, carrying on, our bullpen. I mean, our bullpen ERA was 3.55, right? Again, according to Baseball Reference. Now, it certainly didn't feel like that. It felt worse. So what that means is I think our bullpen was really just giving up a lot of key moments. The people's names that come to my brain immediately is Joely Rodriguez and Trevor May. Adonis Medina, I mean, he pitched like insanely good against the Dodgers when they first came to Citi Field. I mean, I think he closed out on them. and if he didn't close him out, he set up for Edwin Diaz. It was one of the two, but like he pitched awesome. And then after that, he made very few appearances after that, but the few appearances he did make were not good. So, he's young, so, develop his arm. I think he's looking promising. But overall, we had Adam Ottavino, who was fantastic this year. I mean, to be honest, at the start of the year, I was really kind of puzzling why the heck we signed Adam Ottavino, based on his checkered past in recent years, at least. Guy pitched phenomenal. He finished the year with a 2.06 ERA. He could close, basically. Seth Lugo, he did what Seth Lugo does. He kind of pitches to the point where, right up middle alley. He finished with a 3.60 ERA. He started the year really good. He had a few shaky moments, but Seth Lugo does what Seth Lugo does. He's kind of like a workhorse reliever, and overall, I was pretty satisfied with his performance. Drew Smith, I actually am a huge Drew Smith fan. I want to see more of him. I think that guy can develop into something awesome. He got injured, unfortunately, twice this year. He had a quick injury early in the year where he tried to catch a comebacker with his bare hand and dislocated his pinky or thumb or something. I mean, it was like, if he made that play, it would have been insane, but it was like 90-something miles off the bat, so not very smart move by Mr. Drew Smith, but the guy has lights out stuff. I think his biggest weakness is that he gives up the long ball a little too much. So once he kind of covers that, I think Drew Smith's going to be a sweet, sweet reliever. Whether he becomes like our setup man or like a solid middle relief pitcher. He's more of like a one-inning lights out guy, though, in my opinion, but we'll see. And then obviously the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Edwin Diaz, who pitched. He was the best closer basically in the NL. The other guy that comes to mind that was really good was the Guardians closer, Clase, I think his name is. I mean, come on, Edwin Diaz deserves one more introduction. All right, Edwin Diaz. Guy finished the year with a 1.31 ERA. I mean, pretty much every time he came in, he saved it. That was his MO. Sound the trumpets, man. Edwin Diaz, he turned it the hell around from his last few years. It's not that he was terrible in prior years, but he really just evolved into this next level insane pitcher. He had 32 saves in the year. The guy's whip was like 0.83 or something like that. Cohen also expressed that he's going to do everything and anything he can to get him to come back as a Met. I want to see Edwin Diaz in a Met uniform for years to come. Guy is a beast. Moving on to the starting lineup, pretty much. We had an awesome lineup this year. There was a few weaknesses which I'm going to cover, but I'll just go down the list, man. We had Brandon Nimmo. I put all their stats in the pane here, so you can peek at their stats, all their relevant stats. Brandon Nimmo, who was phenomenal defender in center field. The pitcher I chose for his card here was the insane robbery he had. I believe it was against Justin Turner or Max Muncy or something. I forget who it was, to be honest, but it was DeGrom was pitching and he just snagged this ball right out from being a home run. It was beautiful, and his reaction was also beautiful. He just knew it. Drew 71 walks, which is kind of low for Nimmo. I felt like he struck out quite a bit this year, but overall, he was pretty clutch. Nimmo is going to do what Nimmo does. He's a free agent at the end of the year, so I'm a little skeptical what they're going to do. I know one of the biggest roles they're trying to fill this year is the DH spot, so I don't know if they're going to try to get a more versatile player that can play the outfield. I don't know if they're going to re-sign Nimmo. I don't know if they're going to go after Judge. I don't think they're going to go after Judge. They might throw a pass at him, but I don't think they're going to aggressively try to get him. So Nimmo's future is kind of uncertain right now for the Mets. I love Nimmo. I love to see him come back, but if they get someone who's better or fills the role better in terms of how the lineup's going to look next year, then I wish Nimmo nothing but the best. But man, I love Brandon. Marte was the workhorse freaking batter of the year. The guy was a beast. I mean, batted 292, 16 home runs, stole 18 bases. It's really nice to see the Mets stealing bases again, because for a couple years I think we were like one of the clubs with the lowest stolen bases, and then that coupled with Lindor's, I think he stole 16 bases. So the threat of the steal is now very prominent with the Mets, which is awesome. There's been a lot of times where that stolen base was the difference between winning and losing a game. Lindor, like what an awesome year this guy had. In the first half of the year, myself and many other Mets fans were kind of a little disappointed in his performance, to be honest. It looked like it took him a while to get adjusted this year. And the whole sentiment was, oh, he's not fulfilling the contract that he landed, and he's not worth it. But no, I mean, if I ever thought that or said that, I take it back. The guy is a beast. I mean, he's basically the captain of the team now too. For the longest time, I thought Pete was kind of assuming that role, but I've seen a few post-game interviews and with some of the players, and the sentiment was this is very much Lindor's team. So. I'm very proud of him being our captain. He seems like such a stand-up guy, super humble. I'm proud that he's going to be a Met basically for life. So hopefully we'll see more awesome things coming from Lindor. Moving on to Big Meat Pete Alonso. Had an awesome year. 271 batting average, 40 home runs, 131 RBIs. Broke the Mets club record for the most RBIs. I believe the previous holder of that record was David Wright. Going back to Lindor, actually, he also broke the shortstop RBI record back in August. He broke it at 88 or something like that. It was owned by Reyes, and he ended up with 107 on the year. So Lindor setting new milestones for future Mets to come. Same thing with Alonso. Jeff McNeil, who was basically the GOAT on the team this year. The guy was phenomenal. Batted 326, had the NL batting title, 9 homers. McNeil looks like he really adjusted his swing this year. He wasn't swinging for the fences as he was in previous years. He kind of knows what he is now, which is a 5-tool player. I mean, the guy can play insane defense. The guy can get the ball into play. He can slap it the other way, which he did numerous times this year. I'd like to see him move up in the lineup more frequently, to be honest. I hope Buck puts him I don't know, perhaps the 2-hole, or maybe even the 1. The guy just gets on base. He gets on base. So to put him after Pete Alonso was always kind of puzzling for me. Then moving on to Eduardo Escobar. Man, I love Eduardo Escobar. I just love the guy. He seems like such an awesome guy to be around. Apparently, he's kind of like the firecracker of the clubhouse. Super humble guy. Buck even said that he's one of the hardest workers in terms of training. The guy is really always trying to push himself. So defensively, he was a beast this year. First half of the year, not gonna lie, he kind of sucked. Second half of the year, he really picked it up, especially in September. I mean, as Cohen said, September was the month of Escobar. The guy literally carried the team. When everyone else went cold, Escobar was just on fire, hitting home runs every game, hitting doubles, super clutch hits. The guy's a firecracker. I love Escobar. I'm happy he's going to be a Met next year. I don't know what his role is going to be in terms of starting. I think maybe he'll do a conference with Brett Beatty or Guillorme, or he'll probably start the year and then they'll bring Beatty up, maybe later in the year. I really don't know, but I'm perfectly satisfied with Escobar covering the hot corner. Moving on to Mark Canha. Mark Canha came as advertised, man. Just a grinder at the plate, driving pitch counts up, not being an easy out. Had a lot of clutch hits this year. Went super, super cold after the All-Star break. He had a really good stint like right after the All-Star break where he like turned on the power and it was just hitting bombs for a little bit. Then after that, he just went super cold, which was kind of very uncharacteristic of Canna. He always got the ball in play. I mean, when we needed it, and towards the end of the year, he didn't quite deliver. But overall, very satisfied with his performance. Moving on to Luis Guillorme, Los Manos, the guy. I mean, most underrated freaking baseball player in all of MLB. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I talk about Luis Guillorme to other baseball fans. Like, who the hell is Luis Guillorme? I mean, dude, Mets fans know. The guy is a beast. One of the best defenders, I think, in all of MLB this year. He doesn't get a lot of shine on it, though, because he's a utility player. The guy plays everything. He plays third, plays second. I think he even played short for a little bit. The guy plays everything, and he plays it phenomenally. And you wouldn't even expect that from a guy of his build. The guy like lays out for like these insane diving catches and like gets rid of the ball like amazingly right on to target. Guy also had this crazy play, which I was actually at this game. It was a Braves game at home. Scherzer was pitching against Max Fried, and I remember when I was there, I was like, "What the hell just happened? I don't understand what happened." But it was like a ground ball squeeze play, and Guillorme threw it home. It wasn't even a force out. I think Nito or McCann, I want to say it was Nito at the time, had to make the tag and it prevented a run from scoring. I mean, like if that didn't work out, he would have gotten roasted, obviously, but it worked out, and he was super cocky about it too. I love it. It was like, I knew I was gonna get him. Like I just knew it. So like having that confidence as a defender is awesome, and he shows for it. So. Give me more Guillorme. And the guy batted really well, 273 batting average. I mean, he doesn't hit for power, obviously, but he's kind of like like a lesser McNeil. He gets the ball in play when we need to. Moving on to the tank himself, Danny Vogelbach. Got him off of the Holderman trade, which, I have mixed feelings about. I think Holderman was a beast, to be honest. He was a really good bullpen arm. To see him go was kind of sad. But what we got was Danny Vogelbach. I mean, the guy was good. He hit 255 with us, 6 homers. He ended with 18 homers in the year. So whatever he did, on the Pirates. I mean, he's a great eye. Goes down looking a little too often than I would appreciate. However, I don't think he deserves the solidified DH spot. I think he's just a beast bench bat. Because his problem is that a lot of people don't pitch well to him because they know he can just crush the thing. So he ends up walking a lot. And then, someone with Danny V's build is not very valuable on the bases, in my opinion. But, a man on base is a man on base. But I'd rather just see him crush balls, doubles, and home runs all day, every day. I think he'll be a Met next year. I mean, especially for the price that we got him, like 1.2 million or something like that. I forget what it is. I think he'll be a bench bat, and I do think the Mets are gonna look for a solidified DH position. Whether they go after maybe Michael Conforto for cheap, which would be a good option in my opinion, or maybe they can bring Dom Smith back up, or if they want to go after another option that's out there. There's a few big free agents coming. Judge, Arenado. There's a lot of options, so we'll see what Mr. Epler does in the offseason, and I'll cover that here. Then we have what I see as our true catcher this year. It was Tomas Nido. He was supposed to be our backup catcher, but he really was, in my opinion, the lead catcher. Both our catchers are beasts defensively, but both of them are not great offensively, especially McCann. McCann fell off a cliff. I mean, he's getting away with murder with his contract. But Tomas Nido, at least he batted 239, and the few hits that he did have were really clutch. And the guy's a beast defensively. So I don't want to see Nido go. To be honest, if they let McCann go and we have that albatross of a contract to eat, then so be it. I'd rather just start Alvarez and have Nido as our backup next year. That would be my preference. Nito's like the perfect backup. I mean, McCann is a beast defensively, but man, he just forgot how to hit when he came to the Mets. We have again, we just mentioned McCann. He batted 195, 3 home runs. I mean, it's kind of unacceptable, man. Like that bottom hole was just like a free out for every team. And then Mr. Ruff, Darren Ruff, man, that was a horrible trade. I mean, obviously hindsight, 2020. Darren Ruff historically crushed lefties, which is kind of what we got him for. I mean, he just never got us started with us. I mean, I have nothing against the guy personally, but he just did not perform well at all. And JD, although he wasn't being that great for us, I still think he would have been a better option to keep over Darren Ruff. I mean, even when he went to San Francisco, he popped off for a little bit. However, he stayed like relatively consistent. Darren Ruff was just, the guy couldn't hit like at all. It was really sad. And he was also really bad defensively. So again, a DH that I would like to see is someone who's versatile. Go after Michael Conforto for really cheap. Dom Smith, he can play corner outfield, first base. Darren Ruff, he was, he's in the tail end of his career. Guy's not good defensively. Vogelbach, not good defensively. I want a DH that's versatile. So hopefully that's kind of what they're thinking too. So let's before we end it here. That's kind of what went down. We had a few milestones this year, right? On April 29th, we had the combined no-hitter, which was awesome. Tyler McGill started that game, went to Drew Smith, Joely Rodriguez picked it up, Seth Lugo to set up, and then Edwin Diaz to close it out. I mean, in my opinion, in a lot of ways, a combined no-hitter is even harder than just a single starting pitcher doing a no-hitter, because starting pitcher is like in the zone, all the responsibilities on his own, and he's clicking with himself. Whereas a combined no-hitter, everyone has to be on full cylinder, which they were. So that was awesome to see that. And then in May we had that insane comeback against the Phillies. We were down 7-1 in the 9th inning. I think at Philly, and we just chipped our way back and got the go-ahead run and closed out the game. Seeing all those Phillies fans' faces in that game from that comeback was just chef's kiss. But they're in the World Series and we're not, so us. September 25th. Again, I mentioned it prior. That's when Pete Alonso broke the RBI record for the club. Lindor broke it August 14th. So for shortstop. So nice milestones. But kind of recapping on what Buck said. I'd rather have 92 wins and be the last man standing. So again, sad loss against the Padres. But looking at what waited for us in the postseason, to be honest, I don't think we had a chance with how we were hitting the ball and the fact that Pete still doesn't really have viable protection. We really need viable protection for Pete. I know Eduardo Escobar was supposed to fulfill that role, and he kind of was at the end of the year. So if he can stay like that, then he can cover Pete, to be honest. I think that's being overlooked, but he just needed to be consistent. Eduardo Escobar is known for not being very consistent just because the guy swings for the fences every time. For him to hit like how he hit in September consistently, it will be pretty rough. So I think he deserves to be further down the lineup, and we just need to solidify a fourth hole DH. Again, there's a few options. I think personally going after Michael Conforto would not be terrible, particularly because we can get him cheap, and we know Michael Conforto can hit. We just don't really know what we're getting off of his injury. Dom Smith, after he went back down to AAA, he started killing it in AAA. So he's young. He could certainly come back up and fill that role. We got Beatty, got Alvarez, Vientos. I don't know. I think Vientos is probably going to stay in AAA next year, but we'll see. So again, sad year at the end, but I'll tell you what, this year has been the year where I watched the most Mets games since 2015 or in 2016. I watched almost every single game that I could. A super exciting year, which made it even harder to see how the year ended. Was our aces kind of crap in the bed there. Scherzer got booed off the mound. I hate to see that, but at the same time, You're getting paid $47 million a year, bub. Don't choke that hard against Trent Grisham. Who the hell's Trent Grisham? Nobody. But he was a beast in that game. So, you know, I'm going to sit back, think of it objectively, right? Objectively this is year number 2 that Mr. Cohen has had possession of the team. And it's looking like he's really bringing us to the point where we're always going to be in contention. And he keeps expressing that he'll spend what he has to spend. So, I mean, this year, a lot of free agents, so he's going to have to spend a lot. We got Diaz, DeGrom, Nimmo, Taiwan Walker, Trevor Williams. Like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure some of them are going to walk, but DeGrom and Diaz will certainly be heavily sought after. I'm quoting Cohen himself. We have a lot of options out there too. I mean, Shohei Ohtani, he's expressed that he wants to leave the Angels. I don't think it'd be smart to go after him from a trade perspective. I'd say wait a year and go after him with a contract. But, Shohei, man. You get 2 for 1. You get an ace, and you also get a beast DH. So, we'll see how that pans out. It's going to be an interesting offseason, to be honest, and I'll try to cover what moves they make here. I don't think there's much more else to say beyond how the season ended up. I mean, we had great games. I mean, we had that Phillies comeback. We also had a really good comeback against St. Louis at St. Louis. Not as impressive as a 7-1, but we were down like 6-2 or something like that. We ended up winning, so that was really cool. I always like to stick it to St. Louis because I'm still salty from 2006. I actually wanted to see us play against St. Louis in the postseason and us beat them. Go ahead, Pujols, retire. You ain't hitting any more home runs. Go ahead, Yachty. Both those guys actually were pivotal against us in 2006. Yachty Molina hit a home run against us. Pujols crushed a couple home runs against us. 2006, and then Beltran went down looking, and that ended the season for us. So, moving on, 2023. I think I don't know what's going to be our year, but I think we will be in contention. Which, to be honest, as a Met fan, I'll appreciate that. If we are, as Cohen quote, wants us to be the Dodgers of the East Coast, I'm for it, man. I'm for it. Regular season champions. I want to see a World Series in my lifetime, but I'll take being a regular season champion for a while because, being part of this organization the past 20 years of my life has been overall pretty miserable. But, it's nice to see how this team ended up this year. Again, so what I think we need the most, protection for Pete, solidify another starting pitcher if Walker or Carrasco goes, and bullpen help. We need bullpen help, like big time. So we'll see how that goes. Thanks for checking in. I'm peacing out.